It's about the view. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that.
Misogyny and sexism.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election.
When Greg, Gutfeld, and Tyrus step onto the scene, you know things are about to get spicy. But this time, they didn't just throw shade. They torched Sunny Hostin like she was the last slice of pizza at a high school party. Gone in a flash, and nobody's feeling polite. What started as a typical talk show took a sharp turn into roast territory, with savage burns, razor-sharp clapbacks, and enough uncomfortable silences to make even your ex rethink their life choices. Ever wonder what happens when two comedic juggernauts turn a panel debate into a full-blown roast battle? Buckle up. This one's a wild ride.
When it comes to mind, I was like, ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They call them Hitler. They call these things. America rejected them, and instead of coming back and saying we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunday.
When Greg, Gutfeld, and Tyrus team up, it's less like a debate and more like dropping a lion and a crocodile into the same arena. Chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely mesmerizing. Only this time, the poor gazelle caught in the crossfire? Sunny Hostin. Known for her sharp intellect, fierce presence, and a don't-test-me energy that could rattle a courtroom, Sunny usually holds her own. But today, she found herself outmatched and outmaneuvered as Greg and Tyrus unleashed their signature blend of biting humor and brutal honesty. What followed wasn't just commentary, it was a verbal safari with no escape.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners.
Sunny Hostin is the undisputed queen of serious daytime discourse, the kind of pundit who could turn a weather report into a constitutional crisis. If intensity were an Olympic event, she'd outshine Michael Phelps with a medal count that breaks records. Her delivery? Poised, deliberate, and heavy. Like reading the news at a memorial service, every word cloaked in solemnity. But then enters Greg Gutfeld, and suddenly, it's like someone pulled the pin on a comedy grenade in the middle of a silent retreat. And when Tyrus joins the fray, it's not with noise, it's with sheer presence. Picture a gentle giant dropping a piano from 10 stories up, calm, deliberate, and absolutely crushing.
Not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and was it Bette Midler? What's her name? The broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being...
Let's start with Greg Gutfeld, the guy who approaches the news like it's a never-ending sitcom written by fate, and he's been handed the best one-liners in the script. He doesn't just comment, he performs, delivering punchlines with the timing of a seasoned stand-up and the precision of a scalpel. Watching Greg go head-to-head with Sunny Hostin is like watching a Shakespearean satirist take aim at a daytime drama diva. Dramatic, dazzling, and just a bit dangerous. His weapon of choice? Sarcasm, so finely honed it could cut glass, paired with cultural references so rapid-fire and relevant, you'd swear he has Wi-Fi plugged directly into his brain.
The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. You know, how can you now speak the truth and when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest.
Greg Gutfeld doesn't just spar with Sunny Hostin. He transforms her into a walking, talking symbol of everything he sees as broken in mainstream media. To Greg, she represents the holy trinity of modern punditry: performative outrage, designer-clad, virtue signaling, and an unshakable air of self-righteousness. She's not just a TV host in his eyes. She's the poster child for a media culture that's turned solemnity into spectacle and forgotten that humor can be a scalpel, not a sin. One of Greg's signature moves? He takes Sunny's most impassioned arguments and recasts them like they're being read off a teleprompter by an emotionless bot. One programmed to spew preloaded progressive talking points without even a flicker of genuine empathy. The effect is brutal. Suddenly, her statements don't sound profound. They sound programmed. It's like listening to a scratched record stuck on the same track, the kind that even die-hard fans eventually want to turn off. And then Greg takes the mic, not to shout, but to slice. His sarcasm doesn't come from nowhere. It's sharp, deliberate, and often devastatingly accurate. He doesn't just tear down her persona, he holds it up for inspection, turning the serious into the absurd with surgical precision. The real genius? His jokes aren't just cruel, they're clever. They reveal the contradictions, the hyperbole, the staged earnestness of Sunny's on-screen persona, and by extension, the daytime political talk genre itself. What's framed as journalism often ends up looking a lot more like daytime drama. Then there's Tyrus, the perfect counterweight. If Greg is the firecracker, Tyrus is the slow rumble of thunder you never saw coming. His delivery is calm, measured, even understated, but it lands like a freight train. Imagine someone telling you the most brutal truth with the tone of a bedtime story. That's Tyrus. Soft-spoken impact. The contrast between the two is part of what makes the takedown so effective. One cuts fast, the other hits deep.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show, or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know.
Where Greg Gutfeld is all quick jabs and rapid-fire sarcasm, Tyrus is the slow burn. The guy who lets silence hang just long enough to make everyone a little uncomfortable before he lands the line that flattens the room. His humor isn't loud or flashy. It's understated, deliberate, and devastating. And when it comes to deflating overinflated egos, Sunny Hostin is the perfect balloon, full of big words, bigger outrage, and an air of untouchable certainty. Tyrus has a knack for spotting the exact moment when Sunny's arguments become so tangled in intellectual gymnastics that even she might forget what her original point was. Then, with one deadpan remark, no smirk, no raise in tone, he cuts through the noise and distills it down to something so blunt, so obvious that the humor feels effortless. That's the brilliance of his style. He doesn't need to shout or slam the desk. His delivery is the ultimate slow play troll. Quiet, calm, and so casually dropped that it catches you off guard. It's like he's saying, I'm not here to fight. But come on, really? And that's what makes Sunny's trademark intensity start to crack. Her over-the-top seriousness doesn't stand a chance against Tyrus's chill indifference and perfectly timed zingers. The more she escalates, the cooler he gets, and the contrast is comedy gold. What really makes this takedown shine is the chemistry between Greg and Tyrus. Greg rattles the cage, Tyrus tips it over. Together they expose how some pundits get So wrapped up in sounding smart, they forget the power of keeping it simple, or at least making it entertaining.